Hello beautiful people, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Oluchi, and on this channel I talk about cake business. This is your cake business school where I teach you tips and strategies on how to grow a thriving cake business. I'm a cake artist that is based in Swindon, the United Kingdom, and if you're seeing my beautiful face for the first time, you're most welcome to my channel. On this channel I handhold you and teach you tips and strategies on how to grow your cake business. In today's video, I'll be talking about how to bake your cakes right using an electric oven. Yes, this is a series I know that you'll be interested in because someone asked me this question and I've had questions over time regarding using your oven to bake. And I have a series, I have a playlist already about using your oven to bake, oven temperature, using an oven thermometer, and all of that, all of that good stuff. Now, if this is something you're interested in, you want to know how to get the exact same results every single time you bake. This video is for you. You know how we do it. Get something to eat, drink, relax, and I'll be right back. You're welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you how I do mine. I have been baking for over 10 years. And over time, I've grown in my experience and with my knowledge of baking or in my knowledge of baking. And I have been able to achieve good cakes, like baking beautiful, good textured, delicious cakes every single time I bake. Right, with some exceptions. Okay, so but I've been able to master the art of baking, which is very important and a very important skill to have with regards to our cake business. Now, what I do with my electric oven, let me backtrack a bit. So formerly, before I relocated to the UK, I was baking with a fabricated oven. Now, this is what we call, I don't know if it's called a charcoal oven, but it's a fabricated oven. It is made locally, so you make them, they're made locally in workshops around, and you go by and you use them. Now, how we used to turn them on, I think I've made a video and I'll link it somewhere for you. I usually don't like to link my videos in here so they don't chop away, but I'll link it for you. Now, how this ovens are made, they're made of steel, I think, or aluminum, something like that. I'll need to research on what they're made on, but that's how they look like. This is what the oven looks like. And they're usually big in sizes, and you could have like 4 racks, 5 racks. And what we usually do, because somebody asked me the other day, how do we turn on a fabricated oven? And what we do is to just release or open the knob a bit towards the base and light it up, and the flames will go on. And then we'll put our thermometer in to read the temperature. But with an electric oven, you do not have to do all of that, thankfully. I am using an electric oven now. And what I realized was that when I got to the UK, we bake in Celsius and not in Fahrenheit like I used to bake back home in Nigeria. So that had to change, and I had to take classes. I've talked about why I had to take classes and why I had to change my recipe. So in those classes, I got to learn that baking is different here. For example, like I just mentioned, the temperature for baking is different. The style of baking is different. For example, I used to steam bake before, but now I do not have to do that anymore because of the kind of oven I use and because of the kind of ovens you have here. So I'm going to be walking you through how I do mine, and so you can also try and practice the same so you can get good results every time you bake. So come along with me and let's see how this is done. All right. The first thing I do is to turn on my oven. What I do when I switch it on from the wall is I put on the timer. So I increase the timer up to the 1 hour mark. And this is not cast in stone. If you're baking your cakes for maybe 45 minutes, if that's what your recipe calls for, or you're baking for 1 hour, it's all well and good. But I like to put mine, depending on the cake that I'm baking, at the 1 hour mark. Sometimes I add like 10 minutes extra so that I can preheat the oven. So that's the first thing. I put on the timer and then I turn on the settings. Now, the second thing I want you to note is that you should always preheat your oven. It is important that the temperature is good enough for the cake to start baking or start cooking when you put it in. So you do not just put your oven and in the next 5 minutes you put your cake inside. It depends on how hot your temperature gets, or how well your oven works, or how quickly it heats up. But I like to do mine for like 15 minutes thereabouts to give it time to heat up, to preheat, to be preheated, to get hot enough for me to put my cakes inside so they bake, and they bake well. So that's the second thing I want you to know. The third thing is that when you're baking, if you're steam baking, please go ahead and steam bake. When I was in Manchester, I used to steam bake also with my electric oven. But when I changed recipes, since they did not call for steam baking, I just didn't bother to bake, and I wanted to stick to what my teachers taught me. And so I was doing that. The recipes did not call for steam baking, so I wasn't steam baking my cakes anymore. Now, steam baking is not a bad thing, but like I said, because these recipes did not instruct me to steam bake, I have not been steam baking. But if you steam bake, then that point where you preheat your oven is where you put your water into the pan or into the tray and you allow it steam. Like you can see in these videos, I believe that I still have videos of steam baking. So that's how you do it and you put it in. Now, the third thing that is important and that you need to take note of is that you should place your cakes at the same level or at the same point, especially if you're not baking in large quantities. Like my oven, the electric oven you have in your homes is small, it's not big. And I have moved from that baking in large scale to baking as a home baker. So I do not make that, or I do not bake that much per time. Formerly, I could bake as much as 12 cakes, 13 cakes, 8 cakes at the same time. But here, I do not have to bake that much. Of course, I'm still building again. So sometimes I could just have only 2 pans in the oven, or I could have 2 8-inch pans in the oven, or I could have 4 6-inch pan, or I could have 4 6-inch pans in the oven. Now, if I have 4 6-inch pans in the oven, you know that I cannot place them all of together on the same. Now, you know that I cannot place them at the same point or at the same level. I have to make do with the space at the back and also in front, like you can see. So that is it. But if I am baking an 8-inch cake, I do my best to keep them side by side. Now, this works differently for everybody, and I know it's fine. But what I like to do and what I'm sharing with you that has given me consistent, good, excellent results with my cake every single time I bake is that I put them together, just like you can see. So this is an 8-inch heart cake, and rather than put one at the back and one in front, I am putting them in the same place or at the same place so that the heat is evenly distributed. The heat gets to them at the same level and it bakes fine. It is rising nicely together. They're rising at the same pace, and one is not getting done faster than the other. So that's one thing that I want you to note. But if it's a fabricated oven, then that is a totally different ball game. But we're talking about electric ovens today, so let's keep it that way with electric ovens. So that's what I'm doing. So if I had to make like 3 8-inch pan, definitely 2 will be at the back and then 1 will be in front. If I was baking with 4 and my oven could take as much as 4 8-inch pans, then I would arrange them like that. But I doubt it. If we were 6-inch pans, I believe the oven will be able to accommodate 4 of them, 2 at the back and then 2 in front. But because of the size of the oven and the size of the pans, I would just have 2 at the back. All right. And if I were baking, say, a 6-inch cake, then they would be in front, the 8 inches at the back, and then the 6 inches in front. I hope you understand me. But the position and the placement of your pans is important. That's all I'm trying to say. So if you're baking, bear this in mind and practice it as well. Now, the fourth thing I'm going to be talking about, which I've mentioned in the beginning, I think, will be your oven settings. So it's important that you're using the right settings with regards to what your brand of oven calls for. So when I bake, I like to bake with a fan. There are different functions, as you can see, round the oven, round the knob. But what I like to bake with is the fan. I don't know what it's called. If I can get the name, I'll let you know. But I place it right there on the fan. And for the degrees, for the temperature, I put it at 130, close to 160. Now you can bake within 130 to 160. It depends. Some people do 170. It depends on what you're working with, what your recipes call for, what you're comfortable with, what is working for you. But I'm sharing, like I said, for me, what has worked for me. So that's what I do. I place this right here and I place the other one right here and I go baking my cake. So understand the settings that work for you and stick to that settings. If it works for you, all well and good. If you need to alter it or change it with different recipes, then also bear that in mind. I do not forget because it can affect the outcome of your cake. Now, the fifth thing I'm going to be talking about is giving your cake sufficient time to bake before opening them. Now, this is a no-brainer. We all taught this in Baking 101. So do not open your cake before it gets to the point where it's rising or at the point where it is rising. Definitely, you can see through the windows, but usually would say allow your cakes to stay in for about 35-45 minutes before you open the oven door, before you attempt to even open it. Please, if you open it too early or you open it at the point where the cake is rising, and air gets into it, best believe your cake is going to sink in the middle. And you do not want that experience. You don't want that experience. It's not usually a good one, and so affects the beauty. It's going to affect the structure. It's going to affect the texture of your cake. You're just going to have this deep well in the middle, and I don't think anybody likes that. I personally don't. So please do not open your oven too early. Do not open your oven door too early. Give it enough time. Set the timer. Be patient enough. When your cake is done or almost getting done, you begin to smell the niceness, the deliciousness. You get the aroma, you smell it nice, and you know that, oh, this cake is getting done. But be patient and give it time. So this is a bonus point. Even when you've opened your oven to check for doneness and you see that it's wiggly in the middle, please gently put it back. Do not push it back in. Gently put it back. Push it back gently and close the door gently. Don't slam it. If you slam it, that point is going to sink and fall as well. So that's what I do when it comes to baking with my electric oven, and I get amazing, beautiful results with my cakes, moist, fluffy cakes every single time. I've also made a video on how to get moist, fluffy cakes. So if you're looking to learn and you're interested in this, I'm also going to link that video for you. Okay, so please run, watch that video. If you've watched up to this point, please type insightful, and please don't forget to hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel. If you feel led to support this channel in terms of cash, the super thanks button is there, or you can check the description for my PayPal. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I'll do my best to respond to your questions. Until I see my next video, stay happy, stay safe, and stay blessed.